would you describe your personality in 3 words?
Hey Abby, how would you describe your personality in 3 words?
Let me think. Easygoing, reliable, and adventurous. What about you?
I would say optimistic, curious, and empathetic.
Yeah, those definitely suit you. You're always looking for the bright side of things.
Thanks, man. I try to spread positivity wherever I go.
I can tell. That's why you're such a great friend to have around.
Shucks. You're making me blush.
Do you think you have any unique traits? Hey Abby, do you think you have any unique traits?
I'm not sure. What about you, Alfie?
Well, I've been told that I have a really good memory for details. Like, I can remember what someone was wearing the last time I saw them, or what they said to me even if it was a long time ago.
That's pretty cool. I wish I had a memory like that. I don't think I have any unique traits though.
I'm sure you do. Maybe you're really good at something that you don't even realize.
Maybe you're right. I'll have to think about it.
What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Hey Abby, do you think we could talk for a bit?
Sure, what's up?
I've been thinking about my strengths and weaknesses lately, and I thought maybe we could discuss them and help each other out.
That's a good idea. What do you think are your strengths?
Well, I'm pretty organized and I'm good at meeting deadlines. I'm also a good listener and I try to help people when I can.
That's great. What about your weaknesses?
I can be a bit indecisive sometimes, and I struggle with public speaking. And I tend to overthink things a lot.
Yeah, I can relate to the overthinking part. My strengths are probably my creativity and my attention to detail, but my weaknesses are that I can be a bit stubborn and sometimes I struggle with time management.
Thanks for sharing, Abby. I think it's good to know our strengths and weaknesses so we can work on improving ourselves.
Definitely. It's a process, but it's worth it.
How do you handle stress or difficult situations?
Hey Abby, do you ever get stressed out?
Yeah, sometimes. How about you?
Yeah, me too. How do you handle it?
Usually, I try to take some deep breaths and take a break from whatever is stressing me out. Then, I try to tackle the problem with a clear mind.
That's a good strategy. I usually listen to some calming music or go for a walk to clear my head.
Those are great ideas too. It's important to find what works for you and stick with it.
Definitely. It's also helpful to remember that the situation is only temporary and things will eventually get better.
For sure. It's all about keeping a positive attitude and finding ways to cope.
Are you more introverted or extroverted?
Hey Abby, are you more introverted or extroverted?
I'm definitely more introverted. How about you?
I'm more of an extrovert. I love being around people and socializing.
That's interesting. I prefer to have alone time and recharge my batteries.
I can see that. Sometimes I need to be alone too, but I feel energized when I'm with others.
Yeah, I get that. It's just that too much socializing drains me.
I understand. It's all about finding a balance that works for you.
What are some adjectives you would use to describe yourself?
Hey Abby, can you tell me some adjectives you would use to describe yourself?
Sure, let me think. I would say I'm creative, outgoing, and reliable. How about you?
I think I'm a bit of a nerd, but in a good way. I'm definitely curious and analytical, and I'd say I'm pretty determined when I want to achieve something.
That's cool. I think being a nerd can be a good thing these days. And being curious and determined are definitely important traits to have.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I'm not the most social person, but I enjoy learning new things and figuring out how stuff works.
Nothing wrong with that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. But overall, I think those are some pretty positive traits you have.
Do you think your personality has changed over time?
Hey Abby,
do you ever feel like your personality has changed over time?
Yeah, definitely. I used to be really shy and now I'm much more outgoing.
Same here. I think as we experience different things, our personalities can evolve.
Yeah, and I think we also learn more about ourselves and what we like and don't like.
Absolutely. I've also noticed that I'm more patient now than I used to be.
Yeah, it's interesting how we can change without even realizing it sometimes.
Definitely. But I guess that's just a part of growing up and learning about ourselves.
How do you think others perceive you?
Hey Abby, do you ever wonder how others perceive you?
Yeah, I think about it sometimes. How about you?
Honestly, I think people see me as quiet and reserved, which is not entirely true.
Yeah, I can see why people might think that, but I also know that you can be pretty outgoing once you get comfortable with someone.
Exactly. But it takes time for me to open up to people, and I feel like that sometimes gives off the wrong impression.
I totally get it. For me, I think people see me as a bit of a jokester, which is fine, but I also want to be taken seriously sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough when we don't fully align with the way others perceive us. But I guess as long as we're true to ourselves, that's all that matters.
Agreed.
Would you say you are a positive or negative person?
Hey Abby, how's it going?
Not too bad, just feeling a bit down today.
Oh no, what's up?
I don't know, I just feel like everything is going wrong lately.
Well, have you tried looking on the bright side of things? Maybe try to focus on the good things in your life?
I know, but it's hard to be positive all the time.
I hear you, but being negative won't help either. Maybe try doing something that makes you happy, like going for a walk or hanging out with friends.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks for the advice.
Do you have any specific values or beliefs that shape your personality?
Hey Abby, do you think our values and beliefs shape our personality?
Absolutely. I believe that what we value and believe in greatly affects who we are as individuals.
Yeah, for me, family is important, and that shapes how I treat people and make decisions.
I totally agree. I also think that our beliefs about things like honesty, respect, and hard work can shape how we interact with others and approach challenges.
That's a good point. I also think that our experiences and the people we surround ourselves with can further shape our values and beliefs.
Definitely. It's all about figuring out what matters to us and living our lives accordingly.
How do you think your cultural background has influenced your traits?
Hey Abby, do you ever think about how our cultural background has influenced our traits?
Yeah, I do actually. I think my tendency to be very respectful to authority figures comes from my Chinese upbringing.
That makes sense. For me, growing up in a Nigerian household, there was always a big emphasis on community and taking care of others. I think that's why I'm always volunteering and helping out whenever I can.
That's really cool. I also feel like my family's emphasis on education has made me very studious and hardworking.
Definitely. And I think the food we grew up eating has had an impact too. I love spicy food because of my West Indian background.
Oh, interesting. I think my love for rice and noodles also comes from my Chinese background.
It's so cool how our cultural backgrounds shape who we are. What are your hobbies and interests, and how do they reflect your personality?
Hey Abby, what do you like to do in your free time?
Well, I'm a bit of a music enthusiast. I love playing the guitar and attending live concerts.
That's cool. I like to play video games and read books. I guess we have different interests.
Yeah, but I think our hobbies reflect our personalities. You're into video games and books, which means you're probably introspective and like to explore new worlds, while music and concerts give me an outlet for my energy and I love experiencing new sounds and rhythms.
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way. It's interesting how our hobbies can say a lot about us as individuals. Do you have any quirks or idiosyncrasies that make you unique?
Hey Abby, I notice that you always tap your fingers on the table when you're thinking. Is that one of your quirks?
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. It helps me concentrate.
I have a quirk too. I always have to have my phone facing down when it's on the table. It bothers me if it's facing up.
That's interesting. I have another quirk where I can't stand to have any labels facing the wrong way when I'm shopping.
Haha, that's funny. I have a friend who can't stand it when people chew with their mouth open. It drives him crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely a common one. I don't have that one, but I do have a thing where I have to arrange my books in order by color.
Wow, we both have our unique quirks. I guess it's what makes us who we are.
Can you give an example of a time when your personality influenced a decision you made?
I don't know if I should take that job offer. It seems like a great opportunity, but it's in a city I don't really like.
Well, you have to consider whether it aligns with your personality. If you hate the city, it might not be worth it.
That's true. I'm not really a big city guy. I prefer smaller towns with more nature around. Maybe I should pass on this one.
Yeah, you don't want to be miserable just because it's a good job. It's important to make decisions based on what feels right for you.
Do you think your personality is more nature or nurture?
Hey Abby, do you think our personalities are more influenced by nature or nurture?
That's a tough one. I think it's a bit of both. Genetics play a role, but our environment and experiences shape us too.
Yeah, I agree. I think some traits are definitely inherited, but how we were raised and the people around us can have a big impact on who we become.
Definitely. Like, I know I get my sense of humor from my dad, but growing up in a big family with lots of siblings definitely made me more outgoing and sociable.
That makes sense. For me, I think my love of music is inherited from my mom, but going to a performing arts school and being around other musicians really helped me develop my skills.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. But at the end of the day, I think it's a mix of both nature and nurture that make us who we are.
Agreed.
How do you react to criticism or feedback?
Hey, Abby. Can I ask you something?
Sure, what's up?
How do you react to criticism or feedback?
Well, it depends on the situation. If it's constructive criticism, I try to take it as an opportunity to improve. But if it's just someone being mean or nitpicky, I try not to take it personally and just let it go.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes it's hard not to take it personally though.
Definitely, but it's important to remember that not everyone's opinion matters and to focus on the constructive feedback that can help us grow.
That's a good point. I'll try to keep that in mind. Thanks, Abby.
No problem, anytime.
Would you say you are a creative person? Why or why not?
Hey Abby, do you consider yourself a creative person?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not really good at drawing or playing an instrument or anything like that.
Yeah, but creativity isn't just limited to those things. It can be anything that involves thinking outside of the box.
I guess you're right. I do enjoy coming up with new ideas for projects at work.
See, that's creative thinking. And I bet you have other creative hobbies you just haven't realized yet.
Maybe. How about you, Alfie? Do you think you're creative?
Definitely. I love writing and coming up with stories. And I'm always thinking of ways to make my Instagram posts more interesting.
How do you handle conflicts with others?
Hey Abby, I wanted to ask you something. How do you handle conflicts with others?
It really depends on the situation. Sometimes, I try to talk it out calmly and find a solution together. Other times, if it's a really big issue, I might need to take some time to cool off before addressing it.
That makes sense. I usually just try to avoid conflicts altogether, but I know that's not always possible.
Yeah. Sometimes conflicts are inevitable. But I think it's important to approach them with a level head and a willingness to listen to the other person's perspective.
Definitely. I'll keep that in mind next time I'm in a conflict. Thanks for the advice. What are some of your core values and how do they shape who you are?
Hey Abby, what are some of your core values?
That's a good question. I'd say honesty and loyalty are definitely up there. What about you?
Yeah, honesty is a big one for me too. I also value hard work and perseverance. I think those values have definitely shaped who I am today.
I completely agree. I think our values are what guide us and help us make decisions. Without them, we'd be lost.
Definitely. It's important to know what you stand for and what's important to you.
How do you think your personality affects your relationships with others?
Hey Abby, do you ever think about how our personalities affect our relationships with others?
Definitely, I think it plays a huge role. For example, if you're an introverted person, it might be difficult for you to make new friends or connect with people.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think that different personalities can complement each other in a relationship. Like if one person is more outgoing and the other is more introverted, they can balance each other out.
Absolutely. I think it's important to understand your own personality and how it affects your relationships, so you can work on areas that might need improvement.
That's a good point. It's all about self-awareness and learning how to communicate effectively with others.
Have you ever taken a personality test? What were the results?
Hey, Abby. Have you ever taken a personality test?
Yeah, I have. It was pretty interesting.
What were your results?
I got the INFP personality type.
Really? I've never taken one before. What does that mean?
Well, it means I'm introverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. It's also called the mediator personality type.
That's cool. I might have to take one myself now.
Yeah, you should try it. It can be pretty eye-opening.
How would you describe your sense of humor and how does it fit into your personality? Hey Abby, I've been told I have a great sense of humor. Do you agree?
I think you're funny, but your jokes can be a bit sarcastic and dry sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that. I tend to make a lot of puns too.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that. I think your sense of humor fits well with your personality though. You're pretty laid back and easygoing.
Thanks, man. I like to keep things light and make people laugh.
Yeah, and you definitely succeed at that. Keep it up.
Would you say you are more of a leader or a follower?
Hey Abby, would you say you are more of a leader or a follower?
Honestly, I think I'm more of a follower. I prefer to take directions from someone else rather than making decisions on my own.
That's interesting. I always thought of you as a leader. You're always the one organizing events and bringing people together.
Yeah, I do enjoy planning things and bringing people together, but I still feel more comfortable following someone else's lead.
I see. For me, I think it really depends on the situation. Sometimes I like to take charge and lead the way, but other times I'm happy to take a step back and let someone else take control.
What are some of your pet peeves and how do they relate to your personality?
Hey Abby, what really annoys you?
Well, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people chew with their mouth open. It's just so gross.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. I can't stand it either. Another one of my pet peeves is when people don't use their turn signals while driving. It's so inconsiderate and it drives me nuts.
That's interesting. I feel like that says a lot about your personality. You're someone who values order and predictability.
Really? How so?
Well, using turn signals is a way of communicating your intentions and following the rules of the road. It shows respect for others and a desire for things to go smoothly. I think that speaks to your conscientiousness and desire for structure.
Can you think of a time when your personality clashed with someone else's?
Hey Abby, how's it going?
Not great, man. I had a clash with a coworker today. His personality is just so different from mine.
Oh man, I know how that feels. What happened?
Well, I'm a pretty laid-back guy, you know. And he's just so uptight about everything. We were working on a project together and he kept criticizing my ideas and shooting down my suggestions.
That's tough. Did you try talking to him about it?
Yeah, but he just kept insisting that his way was the right way. It was like we were speaking totally different languages.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to connect with people who have a different personality. But don't worry, man. You'll figure it out.
Thanks, Alfie. I appreciate it.
How do you handle change and uncertainty?
Hey Abby, how do you handle change and uncertainty?
It depends on the situation. But I try to stay positive and adapt to the new circumstances.
That's a good approach. I tend to get really anxious when things change unexpectedly.
Yeah, I can relate. But sometimes change can be a good thing, you know? It can bring new opportunities and experiences.
I guess you're right. I just need to learn how to embrace it more.
Exactly. And remember that uncertainty is a part of life. We can't always control what happens, but we can control how we react to it.
Do you think your personality has helped or hindered you in achieving your goals?
Hey Abby, do you ever feel like your personality has helped or hindered you in achieving your goals?
That's a good question. I think it's a bit of both. Sometimes my determination and confidence have helped me push through tough times and accomplish my goals. But other times my stubbornness and impatience have hindered me because I'm not willing to compromise or take things slow.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think my outgoing personality has helped me in networking and making connections, but sometimes I can be too talkative and distract myself from actually getting things done.
Definitely, it's all about finding that balance and recognizing your strengths and weaknesses.
Would you say you are a risk taker or more cautious?
Hey Abby, do you consider yourself a risk taker or someone who's more cautious?
That's a good question. I'd say I'm more on the cautious side. I tend to think through my decisions before taking action.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm actually the opposite. I like taking risks and trying new things, even if it means there's a chance of failure.
That's interesting. I mean, I like to try new things too, but I always weigh the pros and cons before making a decision. I guess I just like to minimize my risks.
I get it. But sometimes taking risks can lead to great rewards. Like when I decided to start my own business, it was a huge risk, but now it's paying off.
Yeah, I can see how that would be fulfilling. But for me, the fear of failure outweighs the potential rewards.
How do you think your personality affects your communication style?
Hey Abby, do you think that our personalities affect our way of communicating with others?
Definitely. Our personality is what makes us unique, and it reflects on how we communicate with others. If someone is naturally outgoing, they might be more likely to engage in conversations and be expressive with their body language.
That's very true. But what about people who are more introverted or shy? Do you think that affects their communication style?
Absolutely. They might not feel as comfortable initiating conversations or speaking up in group settings. They might prefer to listen more than they talk, and that can come across as being standoffish or disinterested.
So, in essence, our personality determines our communication style, and we need to be aware of how we come across to others.
Exactly. We should work on improving our communication skills based on our personality traits, rather than trying to change who we are.
Do you think your personality is more influenced by your family or your friends?
Hey, Abby. Do you think our personality is more influenced by our family or friends?
Interesting question. I believe it's a bit of both, to be honest.
Really? I always thought family played a bigger role.
I can understand why you might think that, but think about it. Friends are the people we choose to surround ourselves with, and they can have a huge impact on our thoughts and behaviors.
That's true. But family is there from the beginning, you know? They shape who we are from the start.
I see your point, but I think it also depends on the individual. Some people may be more heavily influenced by their family, while others may be more influenced by their friends.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Thanks for sharing your perspective, man.
Anytime, bro.
How do you handle failure or setbacks?
Hey Abby, how do you handle failure or setbacks?
It depends on the situation. But usually, I take a break and try to relax. Then I analyze what went wrong and figure out what I can do differently next time.
That's a good approach. I tend to get really down on myself when I fail, but I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, it's important to remember that failure is a natural part of the learning process. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're not capable of success.
Thanks, Abby. That's a nice reminder. I'll keep that in mind.
Are you more of a problem solver or a creative thinker?
Abby, do you consider yourself more of a problem solver or a creative thinker?
That's a tough one. I would say I'm a bit of both. How about you?
I think I lean towards being a problem solver. I like to identify the issue and come up with a solution to fix it.
That's great. I, on the other hand, prefer to think outside the box and come up with unique solutions. Sometimes, that means going against the norm.
Yeah, I can see how that would be useful, especially in creative fields like art or design.
Exactly. It's all about finding the balance between solving problems and being creative.
How do you react to competition?
Hey Abby, have you heard about the new guy who joined our team?
Yeah, I did. I heard he's really good.
Yeah, he is. But honestly, competition motivates me to work harder.
Same here. It's a great way to push yourself to be better.
Exactly. I like having someone to compete with because it helps me improve.
Me too. Plus, it's always good to have friendly competition.
Agreed. It makes work more exciting and challenging.
What are your thoughts on the concept of nature versus nurture when it comes to personality?
Hey, Abby. What do you think about the nature vs. nurture debate when it comes to personality?
That's a tough question. I think it's a combination of both. Genetics play a part in shaping our personality, but so do our experiences and environment.
I agree with you. I think genetics sets the foundation, but our experiences and upbringing shape the final product. For example, if someone is naturally shy, but is constantly encouraged to be outgoing by their parents, they might end up being extroverted.
Exactly. It's like the old saying, genetics loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger.
That's a great way to put it. It's fascinating how much our personality can be influenced by our surroundings.
How do you handle criticism or negative feedback?
Hey Abby, have you ever received negative feedback?
Yeah, of course. It's not always easy to hear criticism, but it's important to learn from it.
I know what you mean. I sometimes take it personally and get defensive, but I'm working on it.
That's a good attitude. It's important to keep an open mind and consider the feedback objectively.
Yeah, I try to ask for specific examples and understand where the criticism is coming from.
That's a great way to handle it. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes and receive criticism. It's all part of the learning process.
Would you say you are a detail-oriented person or more of a big-picture thinker?
Hey Abby, do you consider yourself a detail-oriented person or more of a big-picture thinker?
That's a good question. I think I'm more of a big-picture thinker. I tend to focus on the overall goal rather than the small details.
Interesting. I'm the opposite. I'm very detail-oriented. I like to make sure everything is perfect before moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I think we balance each other out well though. I can come up with the plan and you can make sure it's executed flawlessly.
That's a good point. We make a great team.
Can you think of a time when your personality helped you achieve success?
Hey Abby, do you remember the presentation we did last week?
Yeah, what about it?
Well, I think my personality helped me achieve success with it. I was able to connect with the audience and make them interested in the topic.
That's great. What do you think about your personality helped with that?
I have always been outgoing and confident, so I was able to speak confidently and engage with the audience. I think it made the presentation more enjoyable for everyone.
I see what you mean. I tend to be more introverted, so I struggle with public speaking.
It's all about finding what works for you. If you focus on your strengths and develop your own style, you'll be able to achieve success in your own way.
What are some of your fears and how do they relate to your personality?
Hey man, what's up?
Not much, just grabbing a coffee. How about you?
Same, just needed a caffeine fix. Any plans for the weekend?
Not really, just hanging out with some friends. What about you?
I was thinking of going camping, but I'm a little nervous about it.
Why's that?
I have this fear of getting lost in the woods. It's been with me since I was a kid.
Oh, I see. That's understandable. Do you think it's related to your personality in any way?
Yeah, I think so. I tend to be cautious and like to have a plan, so the thought of being lost without a clear path scares me.
That makes sense. We all have our fears, and they can definitely relate to our personality traits.
How do you react to surprises or unexpected events?
Hey Abby, how do you react to surprises or unexpected events?
I think I usually get a little bit anxious at first, but then I try to go with the flow and figure out what to do next. How about you?
I'm pretty similar. I get a little bit freaked out, but then I take a deep breath and try to assess the situation. It usually ends up being fine in the end.
Yeah, I think it's important to not let surprises overwhelm us too much. They can be good sometimes too.
Absolutely. Some of the best moments in life are unexpected surprises.
Do you think your personality has helped or hindered you in your career?
Hey Abby, do you think your personality has helped or hindered you in your career?
That's a good question. I think it's a bit of both. My outgoing nature has helped me network and make connections, but sometimes my impatience gets in the way of long-term projects.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like my introverted personality has hindered me in some ways, like not being as comfortable in large group settings. But on the other hand, it's helped me focus and excel in solo projects.
That makes sense. I guess it's all about finding a balance and working with what you have.
How do you think your personality affects your decision-making process?
Hey Abby, have you ever wondered how much our personalities affect our decision-making process?
Definitely. I think our personalities play a huge role in how we make decisions.
Right. Like I know I tend to be more impulsive and make decisions based on my gut feeling.
Yeah, whereas I'm more analytical and take my time to weigh out all the pros and cons before deciding.
That's interesting. Do you think your personality affects the type of decisions you make too?
Absolutely. For example, I'm not a risk taker, so I tend to make safer decisions. Whereas, someone who's more of a risk taker might make bolder decisions.
Makes sense. It's fascinating how our personalities can shape our decision-making process.
Would you say you are more of a logical or emotional person?
Hey Abby, would you say you are more of a logical or emotional person?
That's a good question. I think I'm a bit of both.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Sometimes I make decisions based purely on logic, but other times my emotions take over.
I know what you mean. Like, I might know logically that I should save money, but emotionally I might want to treat myself to something nice.
Exactly. But then again, sometimes our emotions can cloud our judgment, so it's important to try to balance the two.
Agreed. It's all about finding that middle ground.
Well said, my friend.
How do you handle success or accomplishments?
Hey Abby, have you ever thought about how you handle success or accomplishments?
Not really. I usually just celebrate for a bit and move on. What about you?
I tend to downplay it or brush it off. I don't like to make a big deal out of it.
That's interesting. Why is that?
I don't want to seem arrogant or boastful. Plus, I feel like there's always more to achieve and I don't want to get complacent.
I see what you mean. But it's also important to acknowledge and appreciate your accomplishments, right?
Absolutely. It's all about finding the right balance.
What are your thoughts on the concept of personality types, i.e., Myers-Briggs?
Hey, Abby. Have you ever heard of Myers-Briggs personality types?
Yeah, I have. Why do you ask?
I was just reading about it online, and I find it interesting how it categorizes people into different personality types based on their behavior and preferences.
I know, right? It's like a blueprint of who we are. But do you think it's accurate?
Well, I think it's a good starting point, but I don't believe it can define us entirely. We're all unique in our own way, and there are many other factors that can shape our personalities.
That's true. I think it's just a fun way to understand ourselves and others better, but we shouldn't rely on it too much.
How do you think your personality affects your leadership style?
Hey Abby, have you ever thought about how your personality affects your leadership style?
Yeah, definitely. I think my outgoing and extroverted personality helps me to be more approachable and communicative with my team.
That makes sense. I'm a bit more introverted, so I tend to be a bit more reserved in my leadership style. However, I've learned to adapt and make sure I'm still engaging with my team.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize your strengths and weaknesses and use them to your advantage as a leader.
Agreed. And it's also important to be aware of how your personality may affect those around you, both positively and negatively.
Definitely. It takes all kinds of personalities to make a successful team.
Can you give an example of a time when your personality helped you build a meaningful relationship?
Hey Abby, do you have a minute to chat?
Sure, what's up?
I was thinking about how our personalities can shape our relationships. Have you ever had a moment where your personality helped you build a meaningful one?
Yeah, actually. I remember when I first started my job, my coworker was having a really tough day. I decided to just sit and listen to her, and it ended up turning into a really deep conversation. We bonded over our shared experiences, and it really helped us connect.
That's awesome. I think for me, it's when I'm able to make people laugh. I have a pretty goofy personality, and I find that it helps me break down barriers with others.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that. Your sense of humor is one of the things I admire about you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I just think it's important to be yourself and let your personality shine through. That's how you build real, meaningful relationships.
How do you handle rejection or disappointment?
Hey Abby, what's up?
Not much, just feeling a bit down.
Why? What happened?
I applied for this job I really wanted, but they rejected me.
Aw man, that sucks. How are you dealing with the rejection?
Honestly, not too well. It feels like I'm not good enough.
I know it's tough, but try to remember that rejection doesn't define you. You're still a great candidate and there are other opportunities out there.
You're right. I just need to keep trying and not let this get me down.
Exactly. And if you need any help with your job search, just let me know.
Would you say you are more of a self-starter or need external motivation?
Hey Abby, do you consider yourself a self-starter or someone who needs external motivation?
I think I'm more of a self-starter. I usually don't need someone to push me to get things done. What about you?
Same here. I find it easier to motivate myself rather than waiting for someone else to do it for me.
Yeah, I feel like being a self-starter is a valuable trait to have, especially when it comes to work or personal goals.
Definitely. It gives you a sense of independence and control over your life.
Agreed. But sometimes it's also good to have external motivation, like a supportive friend or mentor, to keep you going.
Yeah, that's true. Having a support system can be really helpful too.
How do you think your personality affects your problem-solving skills? Abby, do you think your personality affects your problem-solving skills?
Absolutely. I believe that our personality traits play a significant role in how we approach and solve problems.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say we both encounter a difficult problem. I'm more of an analytical thinker, so I tend to break down the problem into smaller parts and find a solution step by step. On the other hand, you are more of a creative thinker, so you might come up with a unique solution that I wouldn't have thought of.
That's interesting. I agree that our personalities can affect our problem-solving skills. But do you think we can change how we approach problems by changing our personality?
I don't think we can completely change our personalities, but we can definitely develop new skills and approaches to problem solving through practice and learning.
What are your aspirations and how do they relate to your personality?
Hey Abby, what are your aspirations for the future?
Honestly, I don't have a specific plan for the future. I just want to be happy and financially stable.
That sounds like a great goal. I, on the other hand, want to pursue a career in music and become a famous singer.
That's amazing. You have such a charismatic personality, and I'm sure that will help you achieve your dream.
Thank you, Abby. I also believe that my outgoing and confident personality will help me get noticed in the music industry.
Definitely, being confident and outgoing is a huge advantage in any profession. I'm sure you'll do great.